We're now with our second speaker, Benito Müller. We had a chat during the webinar, and again, I would like to ask you some further questions that generally try to focus on the results of Katowice. So what were the key outcomes in your view?
Thank you. Well, funny you should ask me this, but I'm glad to be able to show you our little brochure, which is on the website, key outcomes of Katowice. So anyone who is interested in details, please read this. But
having said
that, I think if I've come to one conclusion, how do you measure the success of a COP? There are different ways, obviously, but one of them, which I would do, is how many taboos were actually faced head-on. Because in many cases, there are some taboo topics which are just postponed and postponed. And Katowice was not bad. I mean, one of them was the issue of differentiation, where we found a solution. Differentiation in the sense of we used to have a fixed list of developing countries and developed countries. And the whole Kyoto regime was based on that differentiation. And many developed countries said, we can't have that anymore. Developing countries said, but there are differences, and there are differences in capability. So there was a big issue of whether there would be different sets of rules in terms of accounting for different groups of countries. Now, one thing which was absolutely clear is that to try to define new sets of countries for different rules, we would be here for the next 50 years, okay? But there's also the need for differentiations because there are different capabilities. And I think the beauty, the solution for this particular task in terms of reporting requirements, where it was possible, was the idea of self-differentiation in the following sense. If you assume that most of the participants, most of the countries, if not all, are in there in good faith and want to do the best they can, all you need is to ask them, tell us why you couldn't do it, and tell us how to help you to do it next time. That's all you need in terms of having some flexibility, right? And that was adopted in the context of reporting. Now, the differentiation question is not solved or everything. We still have to look at, for example, developing countries in the context of who is eligible to get money from the GCF. Mm-hmm. That's not going to be so easy. Self-differentiation is probably not going to work there, right? But this will need to be addressed. But that was a big step forward. There were two more. There are two other in the context of finance. One taboo ever since the beginning of the UNFCCC was country needs assessment. Developed countries have pushed back all the time against the idea that there was going to be an official assessment of country needs, financial needs. In the Paris Agreement, there is this idea of financial flows being made consistent with the goal of the Paris Agreement, which is not just north-south flows, it's also internal. So developing countries and other countries were very reluctant because they saw it as an interference in their domestic policies of how they use money. Actually, in the Katowice outcome, the two were faced and mostly in parallel. So there was a deal. If you get the consistency of flows, we get the country needs assessment. So that's, again, two taboos which were looked at.
Right, so taboos, solutions,
yes.
And what is left to do and what should be done in the future to fill the gaps?
Well, I mean, the one thing which is left to do, I mentioned already, is in terms of eligibility of multilateral funding. I have no idea how this is going to be solved because there you need a list of countries. It's not going to work just to say vaguely developed and developing. That's not going to...
At some point.
Yes, at some point you have to have something. The other thing which will need to be done, which was kicked down the lane, was the common timeframes in terms of an ambition mechanism. That one is not clear yet. and Article 6. Now, I'm not so worried about Article 6. I probably shouldn't say this, but I don't think the trading mechanisms are going to be particularly big, because all countries have targets, and I don't foresee that there's going to be huge trading, but it's important to finalize it. Okay, so that's something which hopefully will be done come the next COP. But for me, the ambition mechanism is really, because what this regime now needs, we have to buckle down and do things and be more ambitious, and that's what we need to focus on. No more tiddlywink rules.
Right. Thank you, Benito. We look forward to know more in the future and see how things will proceed in terms of ambition and success of the future COPs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.